Now, residents of the Cape Metropole are concerned about the safety of their children and travelling to and from school. This comes as issues of crime and security, including gangsterism and inadequate policing, are common in the area. A recent study from Stellenbosch University shed light on these concerns, revealing a pronounced difference in worries related to road safety between parents in lower income and higher income areas. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Sophia Plessis from Stellenbosch University. Prof, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it then as well. Then the concerns ultimately here are avidly real. Won't you just paint this picture then for us as you've seen it?
Yes, thank you. And good morning, Arabella, and thank you for having me. We have done a study at primary schools in the Cape Metropole, and the initial idea was to test whether the children know road traffic policy and rules and how they engage with that on roads. But we've also sent a survey to their parents, and that was where we realized that parents are extremely worried about their children en route to school. So we have surveyed parents in 19 schools in total. We have, as you mentioned in the introduction, so the one group of schools are located in low income areas, and that correlates with where children have been involved in car accidents and as pedestrians. And then the other 9 schools were in more wealthy areas, and but so the result from these surveys that parents from both these areas are very worried about their children en route to school. The reasons why they are worried differ between the two groups of schools, but the fact is that if we add the very worried to the worried parents, it adds up to almost 85% of parents who are really worried about their children en route to school in the mornings.
Yeah, particularly alarming is finding that more than 3/4 of children from certain schools walk to school, contrasting with 96% of children in the other group then, and that is the travel by private vehicles. That can be a key aspect of what happens here, because it's the road carnage that then affects them quite significantly then as well here, and seeing the accidents and pedestrian crossings not being sufficient to stave off these killings, right?
No, absolutely. So that's what we found is that where these children are pedestrians, where they walk to school or where they make use of public transport, the risk is much higher for them. We've also done a survey with the children. We've asked the children for responses on how they experience the situation. Now, that we haven't published yet, the paper, but what we see, the children would account for that they have to run across the road, that there are insufficient safe places for them to cross the road. Whereas in the more wealthy areas, the more affluent areas, that those children are driven to school by public or by private cars. So there the parents are afraid of accidents with collisions with other cars. So that's what causes their worrying, whereas the first group of parents are worried because their children walk across the street and also alone. And things like low lighting, that there isn't sufficient lighting. So when it's still dark or in the late afternoons when they have to maybe walk back to home, there aren't sufficient lighting, and this increases the risk for these children.
There is, however, this sobering conclusion, Prof. Parents who are deeply troubled by safety often feel powerless to effect any change on their own. So despite the worry, despite the concern, they're crying out to government to create more sidewalks, more pedestrian crossings and the like, more security personnel. They just feel powerless, however.
Yeah, that is terrible, and that's why I appreciate opportunities like this to speak about this, because it's an issue that I feel passionate about, and it feels as if there are low-hanging fruit for government here, and because improving the sidewalks, safe pedestrian crossings, help children cross the street. Those aren't difficult things to be able to do for government, but I think it's that combined voice that's really necessary to create, to ensure that there's change from traffic authorities in the Western Cape.
So have you been able to share any of this then with government officials, law enforcement and the like?
So we haven't been at this stage, but we started out this project in conjunction with the traffic authorities of the Cape Metropole. So they've been very helpful in giving us access to the schools. We also did audits of the road environment around the schools. And so they were very helpful. My one co-author, Professor Marion St. Clair from Civil Engineering, she did a presentation at a conference where there were traffic authorities, but we will also make more effort in sharing this information.
Yeah, that's going to be the ultimately very important part of all of this, because parents are going to want to know just as much as possible what is certainly happening. Are you finding that people are perhaps taking it upon themselves to ensure the safety of their kids along these routes, creating their own, what are the terms, scholar patrols or patrols in and around children where they're headed to school and the like, to and from?
Yes, what we've seen is in some places, we've seen walking buses. So that would be one parent walking a group of children to school, and that improves the situation a lot. And what we found with these schools, so I had to, before we've sent out the surveys, I called the principals of these schools, and they were all very, very helpful and positive about the study, because the principals also want the safety of the children to improve. So it was a joyful and well, it's a sobering a subject, but just to engage with these principals, it's really to see how they also want to improve the situation for their children. But it's so they can create school patrols, but if cars the speed is too high around their schools, if there aren't speed enforcement bumps in the road to lower the average speed around their schools, then they are really helpless in improving the situation. So those are the things that we need to improve.